So Sean, recently you've been getting a lot of calls from people from Canada, so we decided to do a video. What do you need to know if you're moving to Orange County, California from Canada? Now first let's start out, what are the reasons that people decide they want to move out here if you're from the beautiful country of Canada?
You know, this is one huge reason. I mean, Canada is our great neighbors to the north, but the thing is that weather isn't a strong suit of Canada. It can get rather cold there, and California, especially Southern California, has beautiful weather 365 days a year. I mean, it's really, again, we get calls from all over the country, internationally, but Canada, we get actually a good amount of calls because people are really kind of going, you know what, I'm tired of the bitter cold winters. You know, it's like, so basically some people may just actually want to get a second home, so they want to be, they're snowbirds, they want to get here when it's like the geese, right? Like they want to get here when it's nice and cold up north, but it's nice down here. Yeah, and so that's obviously the prime, I would say, if I had to say anything, I mean, obviously there's a reason why anyone seems to reach out to us in particular is the weather. And again, it's as good as advertised, it is fantastic weather. So I get it, that's why we're here. But yes, so the weather's perfect, but also people do come here because of job opportunities. You know, Orange County itself is a very robust economy, very diverse economy, tons of different industries where we are. And plus we're not only Orange County itself of a population of 3 million people, we really punch above our weight class from that perspective, but also we're tied into the greater Los Angeles metro, mega metropolis, you know, job market as well. So whether or not you're just, you know, in the local Orange County economy, or you're moving to LA and you're working in LA, but you want to obviously live in Orange County, it's, you know, it's a really compelling option for sure.
And then also you get a lot of people that, because they can work remotely, they just decide, hey, you know, why don't we move out here? Especially because, you know, Canada's real estate, it's fairly comparable to at least the major cities, right?
Exactly. So the major cities in Canada, you know, obviously your Torontos and your, let's say, British Columbia, you know, your Vancouvers and stuff. Basically, there's no real payment shock when it comes to moving to Orange County. I mean, we do get people reaching out again all over the world, and there is a bit of payment shock. It just is the reality of it. But for Canadians, it really isn't that much. So they can kind of go, okay, you know, it's maybe comparable, maybe slightly cheaper, maybe again, in that vicinity of what they're used to. But at the same time, they can obviously live with this weather, this kind of area, and also work remotely if that's what you have. So whether or not you have an actual job here or you can work remotely, you know, we get people reaching out again, whole bunch of different reasons. So before we continue, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sean Dezahd.
And I'm Courtney Dezahd.
And we're licensed realtors here in the state of California. And if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love Orange County. I love the perfect blue skies. I mean, look at this. I love the beautiful weather. I can't wait to move in here. Now, the problem is I'm not local. I may be out of state. I may be even out of the country, so I don't know what to do. I totally get that. That's when you reach out to us so we can have that conversation, finding out specifically what you're looking for, and we can be your boots on the ground. We actually do virtual tours of not just the properties, but the neighborhoods as well. Again, when we have that conversation, we really get granular about specifically what you're looking for. So what you want to do is when you give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country. Okay, so let's say, you know, you're a Canadian, you're watching this video, you've decided you want to move, so what's the next step? Like, what do you have to do?
So the next step would be, obviously it kind of depends, right? So if you're looking to actually work out here, you probably need to work out some sort of visa arrangement. Again, I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't have, that's not my, I try to stay in my lane. I would definitely recommend, you know, reaching out to an immigration attorney to kind of find out what specific visa is the right one for you, because that ranges all over the place, right? So there's employer-sponsored visas. There's one more like pertaining to if you're actually investing in the country. So whole bunch of different ways to do it. Obviously, again, talk to your immigration attorney as far as the actual you living here kind of component of things.
And then in terms of where you're going to actually live, like what exactly do you have to do?
Yeah, so basically, okay, let's say you got the visa thing squared away, right? So you have that done. Now, as far as the actual house hunting is concerned, there's a couple different caveats. There's a little bit of things you need to kind of understand. There's a little bit of differences here. So as far as when you buy a property in Orange County, and in California, and really in the United States for that matter, you kind of figure that the escrow process, the whole sales process, so once you have an accepted offer to the time that you close escrow, so the time that you actually get the keys to the property, is about a 30-day process. So what I've heard from other people coming from Canada is that their process is closer to more 60 days potentially. It can kind of range all over the place, but just kind of know that the process here is about 30 days, a little bit less, a little bit more, but in that vicinity. So that's kind of like just to understand what that timeline is. And then secondly, you know, so when you're looking to that, I would always recommend obviously getting pre-approved. Obviously, if you're paying cash, this part doesn't apply, obviously. we're, we can have that conversation, of course. So you can bypass this next part of this video. But if you're looking to get, financing, so if you need some help to buy the property, you're going to want to get pre-approved. So basically, you're going to want to
Pre-approved for a loan.
Yeah. So thank you. Yes. So pre-approved for a loan. So you're going to want to talk to a lender, finding out specifically, what do you have to have, get your ducks in a row as far as, speaking of ducks, we have ducks right here, but basically you want to get your ducks in a row to really kind of find out, okay, what do I need? Because usually lenders are looking at three specific things, right? They're looking at, okay, your down payment. So how's that being sourced? And then basically they're also looking at your credit. And that can be a little bit interesting because, obviously for international purposes, and also looking at income, right? So they want to make sure that you've shown credit worthiness, that you've paid off, your debt obligations on time, but also at the same time, you have the capacity to actually make payments in the future. So let's kind of break that down a little bit. So obviously the down payment, that's going to be interesting because it depends on how you're sourcing it. So if you're actually getting, because we have people reaching out, they obviously are looking to sell their home in Canada and looking to buy here. So if you're doing that, that can be a little bit complicated where we have to have that conversation honestly to kind of find out, okay, well, is your property on the market? Is it in escrow? How long does you anticipate it taking to get to the closing, to close escrow at that point? So we can obviously use those down payments to basically fund your loan down here. And that's where, maybe you're looking to go ahead and, you want to get through, like, let's say your property is your property is under contract. So your home that you're selling is under contract. And then from there, we can obviously go ahead and start to look, a little bit more. Okay, we could start to really really start writing offers on other homes, because a lot of times sellers aren't really wanting to, accept an offer that's contingent on the sale. So if you have to sell your home to buy, especially if it's international, sellers are a little bit hesitant because they don't want to take the property off the market when there's just more variables attached to it. So,
and especially, sorry to interrupt you, but because in Canada they're used to 60 days, right? And here it's 30. So if you are selling your house and you're using the 60-day contingency periods, and then here it's 30, and then a seller is going to be like, well, I don't know if that's what I want.
Yeah, and for contingency periods, and again, I don't want to speak to how every offer is structured in Canada, but when you have contingency periods here, you have appraisal contingencies, and you have loan contingencies, as well as inspection. So there's so when you have a property that you've gone under contract, you put a deposit into escrow to show your obviously sincerity about wanting to purchase the home. That deposit's protected, assuming that you go within the timeline. So you're getting your inspections done on time. You're finding out that you're fine with the property's condition. The appraisal's taking place, so the property's worth, in the lender's eyes, what you're buying it for, and then the loan is taking place. You got the loan approval in the timely manner. So these are all things that are done in a certain time period, and it's again about between 10 to 17 days between those things to kind of move this thing along, so we know we have the seller and everyone else knows we have a real deal, because once those contingencies are removed, then your deposit is live. So that's where it can go to the seller in the situation where the deal falls apart. Okay, so basically, that's more or less the down payment component of the loan. Now, the second part of it is, the credit part, right? So that's gonna be interesting because if you're Canadian, some Canadians actually they do a lot of work in the United States anyway, so they have American credit, but sometimes they just have Canadian credit. So not every bank, takes that Canadian credit into account as far as your credit worthiness. So I always recommend actually talking to RBC, because they have branches both in the United States and in Canada. So they can take your Canadian credit and still lend to you for an American property. So you have that possibility as well. So there are other local lenders here that do have foreign national products. So again, that's where we can have that conversation. I can give you some people to talk to, so that way you kind of get a sense of, okay, this is what RBC is offering, these are what some of these other lenders are offering, to kind of figure that out. So that's another thing to kind of take into account as far as your Canadian credit score, if that's all you have. And then as far as RBC is concerned, I've heard that there's some issues where they need more of a 60-day loan process, where that's going to again take a lot of sellers, because it's about 30 days here, they're hesitant to go way beyond that time frame. So that's literally doubling it up. So that's kind of where we obviously talk to RBC to kind of figure out, okay, what are their time frames? Can they do a 30-day escrow? If not, it is what it is. So we'll obviously write offers accordingly. We just want guidance on how to write the offer, and that really has a lot to do with what the lender is directing us to do there. And then finally, the third primary component of this is income. And this is where it gets a little bit dicey. So if you're getting financing, And let's say we got past the whole credit stuff and we have the down payment all ready to go. Okay, now's the income. So if you're moving here, like let's say on an employer-sponsored visa, or like you have a salaried job here, that's going to be pretty easy. You have your offer letter, you have all that stuff. You just need usually one pay stub to show that you're now working here, and everything's pretty good. They can usually take, if it's a salaried employee, you can actually take that as your income sourcing, so they can kind of do all their debt to income ratios off of that. Some people, they actually work remotely, so they still have their Canadian business and maybe they're developing something here, but they still have their income source, so it doesn't really change anything. So that's another aspect. Now I do get people reaching out, then they're actually looking to, let's say, either acquire a business or they're wanting to start a new business. That gets a little dicey, because the thing is that from a lender's perspective, if you're starting a brand new business, what is that income? Because that's why they typically actually want you to be like working, if you're doing self-employed, for at least 2 years, to provide 2 years of tax returns, kind of, so they can average out, okay, this is how much money you're making in a given month or a given year, to kind of use that as the income component of this stuff. So that's where, again, that's why it's really important to get pre-approved by a lender to really kind of understand that. And at least we know, right? At least we have direction. So if they say, okay, this is what has to happen, okay, now we can at least get to that point where maybe you're not ready to buy a property tomorrow, but maybe a year from now, like, you'll be in a better position. But we need to know how to start and what order, what direction to take, so that way a year from now, you're not having to wait another year from then because we didn't take those proper steps. So that's where it really helps to talk to a lender right away, just to understand. Again, and there's no obligation, it's just really to understand how this financing component is going to work out for you.
But then, of course, what is the first step?
The first step is to reach out. Obviously, give us a call, because we've worked with people. We've worked with Canadians to help them find a home. So we're kind of been through the process. So we have a kind of good sense of how to direct you to get that, if you're getting financing, get that financing kind of secured somehow, some way. But really, that first step is really to reach out to us so we can understand what you're looking for and what your exact situation is, and then really we can take that next step from there. And remember, we are licensed realtors here in the state of California. So as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you need to do is give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country.